Money doesn't think. People do. Money's neutral. We talk about money's nothing more than a tool. It only amplifies the thinking behind it. And so most people blame money for the outcomes. Like, hey, I can't make enough money. I work so hard and my money seems to disappear. But Jeremy, the reality is that money's never made a single decision. Welcome back, 2026 WealthWise banking listeners. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. I was just saying to the man, the Jeremy, the Lee, the Huggins, that it still feels like I'm catching up from 2025. Can anybody relate to that? Does anybody feel like you're still in some kind of vacation, holiday hangover? But, that's just me. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's you too. Love to hear from you. And Jeremy Lee, how are you doing, brother?
I am still trying to figure out what happened to my childhood. If I could go back and think about when we had naps as a kid, man. Like if I could just redo nap time in the middle of the day, I'd love that.
You know what? I did nap time in Ecuador. You know what happened? I got woke up.
You didn't appreciate it.
No, no, people did not appreciate that I got the time to take a nap, and I was doing it like a vampire, man, just laying in coffin style, hands on my chest. How do you nap? That's how I prefer to nap because I didn't want to. I had stuff to do. I didn't want to be looked messed up and ruffled when I got up. I just wanted to lay down, wake up, get going. So, but I agree with you. So, welcome back, everybody. We're in year two. That's something to celebrate. So, high five, celebrate. Today, I want to ask you a question. What if the problem with money isn't discipline or income or the economy? What if it's the questions we were never taught to ask? Because money doesn't make decisions. Apps don't think, banks don't think, people do. You do. And once you change how you think about money, the stress, the confusion, and the constant, why does this feel so hard, starts to disappear. Stay with us because today we're breaking the money paradigm most people never even realize they're living inside.
Yeah, Jason, I think that's a really intuitive kind of thought process there, right? A lot of folks were just taught what to do with money, and then it's kind of passed on because the person that might be teaching you what to do with money may not have been actually taught proper money patterns. We've talked about the differences there before, right? Money habits versus money patterns and money problems. But I think the way that you think about money and what is money in your life is something worth exploring. We're going to break down a little bit in this episode the financial stress and figure out that just because we're talking about money, it's not necessarily a math problem, right? We can talk about going to Moneyville and what it looks like to live in Moneyville if that helps people to think about it conceptually. Okay. But what I don't want is training people. This is not a conversation about training people how to think. I think that there are two different types of people. We have our builders and we have our borrowers out there. And folks that are typically going after that fast money, going after those money patterns. I need money and I need it now.
Mm.
Those are a lot of our borrowers, right? They're not the builders, they're not the ones that are actually preparing for the future. Because what you do today will echo for the rest of your life. And so we want to set those proper money patterns while you're working today.
I love that. And you said a lot of powerful things there. And for most people, this is going to be one step in helping you identify. We're going to have other episodes. We're going to really help you identify where you're at today because as always, we talk about when it comes to thinking, thinking is space. Thinking is having an action, having space to contemplate it and think what the best path forward is, then move, not just react. And society teaches to react, right? Because money doesn't think, people do. Money's
Mhm.
neutral. We talk about money's nothing more than a tool. It only amplifies the thinking behind it. And so most people blame money for the outcomes. Like, hey, I can't make enough money. I work so hard and my money seems to disappear. But Jeremy, the reality is that money's never made a single decision.
Yeah, no, you need to be intentional about your money. Like you said, it is a tool. Actually, in the conversation we had with Steve Naguib last year, he talked about money being a form of utility
Mm.
and how to be useful with it. So rather than asking kind of what should you be doing with your money, I think that's probably one of the most Googleable search engine. Is that a word? Googleable?
It is now, man. I just thought, whoa.
What is that? So when you're looking at what should I do with my money, I think it might be better to ask, what am I trying to solve? What do I want this money to do? What is the utility behind this dollar? And the more options you have with your dollar, the more control you have of your capital, the more decisions, the more opportunities, the more freedom that you have.
That's it. And maybe for everyone listening, folks in the car, kids at home, maybe here's a question for you. Where have I been blaming money instead of examining my thinking?
Oh man, you're going to ask people to take personal accountability for their money patterns, Jason?
I think I just did, Jeremy. I think I said, hey, if you want to have progress in 2026, if you want to actually hit your dreams and have that life that you live, the freedoms that you want, the freedom of money, the freedom of time, the freedom of relationships, then guess what? You're going to have to take radical ownership. And this leads us right into borrower thinker versus builder thinking. Like this, Jeremy, you just wrote a book about this,
Mhm.
about these two people, these two types of people. So let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, very simply, people who borrow are reactive. People who build are intentional. Very simply put, if you want to break it down into those two things and ask yourself, like, am I reactive when it comes to money? Am I from a scarcity mindset when money comes in? Do I immediately send it out or am I intentional? Part of that intention we discussed paying yourself first. There has to be intention behind that first law, right? Pay yourself first, pay yourself with interest. And builders, well, every builder that I know is intentional about their dollars. They actually take time to figure out one, how am I going to create it? Two, how am I going to keep it? And three, how am I going to multiply that dollar?
Mm,
Create, keep, and multiply is really a formula for the builder mindset.
it is, and I love that. And society, what society reward? It rewards speed, swipes, clicks, approvals, instant gratification. Today, I'm proud to say, Connor stayed home to recover from our trip, and I was like, I was against it, but he did a report, Jeremy, and then he wanted to do some research on his new PS5, and I was like, okay, give me a report. Like if you want to research this and research this annual subscription model in the games. And so he gave me all the reasons to get it. And I had to tell him, trust me, this leads right into this, Jeremy. I know you're looking like, what is he talking about? But what I asked Connor to do is like, okay, well, you know what? Builders are slow and intentional, Connor. No decisions are going to be made this week about the things that you want. I actually need to see the cons. Where are the trade-offs? Where are the things that you're giving up? Because here's the reality, son. Is what you're showing me an asset or a liability? I know that's not today's topic, but to help him train in his thinking to slow down because fast decisions are going to create long-term pressure. Like what happens next year? What happens when the subscription
Mm,
model increases? What happens when we stop playing with this new gaming system and it's outdated and we're moving on to the next thing? So I wanted him to like for you, the listener, the question I was asking my son is, do my money decisions feel rushed or calm?
mm. Yeah, that's really again, it gets back to intention. I want my money, I want it now. I want to be responsive, I want to be impulsive, or I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to find the utility. I'm going to learn to create, keep, and multiply for a specific purpose. Money is, like you said earlier, it is a tool. It has value, and the paper dollar is only the value that we assign to it, right? When you go out and buy an asset, it's only worth what someone's willing to buy it for. And you don't get to assign that value all the time. So, what's the intention behind going after a game system? Maybe for him, it's he likes playing games. He likes the out. He likes leaving the real world to go into a fantasy world for a little bit and allow his creativity as a young child to be exploration. I can argue that there's value in that because it's expanding his creativity outside of just reading a book. Um, I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit on Connor's side for that regard.
He'll like to hear that, but I asked him, he said, well, what if dad? What if I want to be a professional gamer? He didn't say it like that, but dad,
Oh,
what if I want to be a professional gamer? I said, do you? He said, nah.
man, I actually talked to a professional gamer who is a relative of mine, and my this relative of mine said I just had one of the best months in my professional gaming. And here I am. I'm thinking like, oh, like awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, you're probably able to maybe quit your job, right? And I was like, how much did you make? Jason, what do you think a good month for this professional gamer was?
Well, it doesn't sound like it sounds like they're maybe like in the C League, like, just you still riding buses instead of taking personal jets and things. Am I kind of hearing that part of it right?
Yeah, I would say that it was enough to cover maybe a grocery bill and maybe part of a cell phone
Whew.
bill. I was like, what? That you spend all these hours playing video games as a professional gamer and that's what you got paid? It's
Jeremy, you
like,
know what that sounds like? That sounds like when my AP bio teacher, Mrs. Miller, and shout out to Mrs. Miller if you hear this, because that'd be super cool. But when she said, Jason, you should put science and art together. You know what I did, Jeremy? I went and found the medical illustration. I'm like, ooh, they make a lot more than a scientific illustrator. Ooh, they can make $95,000 a year. And this is back in 1996, right? Or no, 1992. And I was like, wow, that sounds like a lot of money for where I'm from. Jeremy, you know what no one told me?
what?
That was the Michael Jordan of medical illustration. They didn't tell me that I would graduate with an $80,000 college bill and make more as a lifeguard at 15 years old than I made with that college degree in 1997 when I finally graduated. So,
You also put something in perspective for me. I kind of forgot about this until you just brought it up, but a lot of money to me, a lot of money to you, a lot of money to one of our listeners, it's all relative.
hmm
And when I hear something is expensive, um, I'm thinking in terms of my relationship with money, right?
hmm
Or if someone says something like, I made a lot of money, I'm looking at it in terms of my lens and what it is to me. And so maybe to this person that was a lot of money comparative to their lifestyle choices. I don't want to put them down with that regard. But what I will say is the only person you have to compare yourself to is yourself and the lifestyle that you want. If you think that $100,000 a year is unobtainable, guess what? You're right. If you think that $1 million a
Mm.
year is obtainable, you're also right. It's all relative.
Jeremy, you've been listening to my calls again. I ask that question, say that quote every single call. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Hmm.
And that leads us to like the power of simple questions. We just kind of went on a couple of different tangents and stories and things, but all relative. But today, one of the things when you're talking about money is the thinking loop, the one that we believe with WealthWise banking is what problem am I solving? Not can I afford this? Should this even exist in my life? But that question is what problem am I solving? For Connor, what problem was he solving? Was he joy, like you said, the enjoyment of this new skills he's getting, maybe the camaraderie of being able to talk about it with his friends. And then it's when it comes to money, it's what problem am I actually trying to solve with my last big money decision? Was it something I needed? Kind of back to one of our earlier episodes too. Was it something that's aligned with our big goals, our vision, where we're going? Or on the other hand, is it not aligned? Should it not even exist? Should it be postponed to later until the money is out working for us, right? Like this is the power of these simple questions and shifting the paradigm between the borrower mindset and the builder mindset.
Yeah. And since we're starting off the new year, I mean, here's my challenge to our listeners, right? I want you to go out and figure out a way to bring in enough passive income this year, passive income to take care of your basic necessities, right? What do you have to do in a passive income way? What are the side gigs, anything that you're doing to just cover the basic necessities so that way you can continue to build? That's going to
Mm,
force you to be intentional. The reason I challenge you on that is because I want you to build. I want you to build a lifestyle that is fit for you, fit for your family, but also has intention behind it. And we all want to create, keep, and multiply. I don't think you'd be listening to this podcast if you didn't want to. But if you end up having the ability this year to go out and bring in passive income that covers your basic necessities, so think about it. What's it costs for my housing, my food, my basic bills? I'm not talking about your Netflix subscription.
Hmm.
Okay. But I am talking about your car insurance, the fuel to get you from point A to point B. I want you to go through and take a look at your finances, figure out what it is that magic number that you need. And then rather than replacing and covering that with your day-to-day income, how can you cover that through passive income? What's the intention you're going to have in 2026 to actually cover those numbers? If you have those numbers, you want to share, write them down, look at where you are at the end of the year. If you're able to start accomplishing it, reach out to us. We'd love to have you on the podcast and tell us how you got from point A to point B with intention to be a builder in 2026.
Now, that's like a powerful little commercial there to inspire, to get people really dialed in. We want to hear what is your number. And your number is whatever that total that Jeremy just told you plus one. That's your freedom number. Whatever the total cost of your living is plus $1 is your freedom number. Because that means that if you have that coming in passively, it covers everything. Correct, Jeremy?
Yeah, yeah. And you need to figure out how to come in passively. Now, passive comes in different forms, right? What I'm really looking for is I don't want you to go out and have to mow another yard or pick up another shift to cover those numbers. I'm trying to figure out a way that you can actually separate and spend more time living. I want you to get busy living, not
Mm.
get busy working. That's what I'm looking for. Like we're building with intention, and part of that intention is enjoying life.
Speaking of that, Jeremy, how many people are in this conversation right now? Not a trick question, brother. How many people? You like when I ask you questions out of the blue like this, so don't you?
Well, I mean, you and I are having a conversation with our members right now, and I have no idea who's tuning in.
That is a very logical answer, my friend. I very much appreciate that logical answer. What if I told you that there's four people having this conversation right now?
Okay.
Yeah, you want to know more? You a little intrigued? Who are the
I
four
don't,
people?
I think even if I said no, you're going to tell me anyway.
How could you tell? Oh God, man. Well, Jeremy, this is a concept that I love to talk about. Right now, there's four of us in this conversation. There's Jeremy Lee present. There's Jason Patrick present, and there's Jeremy Lee Huggins future and Jason Patrick Sipple future. There's the four of us having this conversation. So when we're talking about the intentionality, when we're talking about our thinking, when we're talking about our decisions, every decision chooses who are you serving. So we're always choosing between our present self and our future self, even if we don't realize it. And so for you, Jeremy, I just kind of want to know what your thoughts are about, what's it look like to be a builder and to use this kind of thought process around being present or the future self that we're serving.
Restate the question. What's it mean to be intentional about?
Yeah, well, if we're always choosing, right? If there's always four of us and every decision we make, it's either is it serving ourselves now? Is it aligned with our future self? Or is it just serving us currently and it's gonna negatively affect us in the future? So when we start realizing that, like for most Americans, it's the opposite. We're putting money aside into our future self willingly every month without really thinking about it. We kind of set it and forget it, and we hope and we pray that it's going to be there when we're ready to retire, right? Like that's the current common thinking in America. And we're not thinking what's going to happen, or am I serving my present self? Like, do I have, and this you sparked this with your cash flow and the challenge. Do I have the cash flow now to really live a wonderful life presently, intentionally? And is it also serving my future self? So what I was asking you is really to talk about how builders are slowing down long enough to ask, does this help my future self or only present me? Because that pause is where that freedom begins.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at that, I think that you can have your cake and eat it too. I think that you need to live in the moments, but you also need to be intentional about your future, right? And is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, because our systems now, like modern systems, are designed to remove the pause.
Yeah, we're a lot of folks are just reactive. Something stimulus, reaction, stimulus, reaction. There is
Yes,
no
yes, and marketing is so good. And these engineers in gaming, you talk about gaming. I've been watching Connor watching loops of gaming, and they were talking about Pokemon and one of the Pokemon games and how literally to like level up and to do the things in the game without spending like 6 to 8 weeks, it was saying, you'd have to spend like $600 to get to that next level. Or you just and the gaming is created that way to make you feel like if you don't do this, you're missing out. And we all want to belong to something. So it's that psychology. I know I'm a little tangential right now, but that psychology of feeling the pressure to keep up with the Jones, to compare yourself with those around you, that's where freedom's removed. That's how
Hmm.
control is designed. That's what happens when you're just being reactive rather than proactive. So like my question there, my thought there for the listeners is like, how do you protect future me, future you on purpose?
How do I protect it? Are you asking me this directly?
No, no, I'm asking our listeners, how do they like start thinking about when you're making decisions? How do I protect my future self on purpose?
Yeah, well, I mean, you just definitely got to step back and pause. I think the whole purpose of this podcast here, this episode, is really intentional thinking. It's pause and reflect. It's not stimulus reaction. It's pause, reflect, act. Pause, reflect, act. Even what's funny is you talk about tangents. As you were talking, I was actually reliving a moment when I was going through special ops assessment, and I was in front of a board, and the colonel, he asked me, "Well, what makes you so great?" And I had something along the lines of, "Well, I'm a hard worker."
Mm.
And he looked at me and he goes, "I don't want hard workers. I want smart workers. I don't care how hard you work. I care how smart you work." And I've carried that on as like, wow, to be smart about the work means I have to actually put intention. I can't just say, "Oh, let's go build a ditch and grab the shovel." There might be a better way. There might be a smarter way. Maybe, maybe I get Jason to build a ditch for me. Maybe I
You
leverage his
try
time.
sometimes, brother. You try sometimes. You're like,
Yeah.
hey, I don't have this. You have to do this again for me. I'm like, oh man, look at him.
Yeah.
Look at him outsourcing the work to me.
But what I'm getting at is it's that intentional thinking. I think that you do need to work smarter, not work harder. You're planning for tomorrow while at the same time living for today. There, you can have your cake and eat it too. You don't have to work your entire life away. You can actually be intentional. You can slow down, and what you'll probably find is that the more you slow down, not only are you living more life, you're living a more intentional life, and the create, keep, and multiply starts to show up more in your life. You're not just picking up extra shifts to make money, you're actually leveraging skills, resources that you're picking up. When you're reading a book, you're pausing, you're reflecting, you're applying. That application, that little bit, that the pause and the intentionality is the difference between someone who goes through life being reactive and someone who goes through life being intentional. And it just pause.
That
Just take a
pause,
pause.
that pause is the freedom and the difference between being a borrower or being a builder. It's the paradigm shift saying, "Hey, I no longer outsource my thinking." Right?
Mhm.
That wealth starts with this. That wealth is starts with that independent thinking. That wealth is going to become from that pause. And then you keep saying something really important. I don't know if the listener is picking up on it, but I did. You're being like Nike. You were saying just do it. Take action. Take action. Like pause, act. Pause, act. Think, pause, act. How's that? How's that for the tagline for this episode? Think, pause, act. Think, pause, act. Because the builders they're not chasing returns. They're protecting their thinking. And
Mhm.
once we start radically, right, owning our decisions, this is when money starts becoming a tool that works for us versus the other way around. We're no longer the tool for money, right? Money becomes a tool for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that we've covered a lot in this episode. So think, pause, act. If that's the tagline for it, I'm on board. I think it's a good one. I want you to start thinking intentionally about your 2026. Figure out what is your cost of living, what's your freedom number today, and then think intentionally on how to create a passive income stream this year to cover your freedom number. And as you're building, if you got questions along the way, if you think that there's a better way of doing it, if you want to know how I do it, reach out, schedule a call with me. Jason's going to be more than helpful in sharing his time, his strategies. He's done this very intentionally at a family level. So if you have a spouse that needs to get on board and you don't know how to talk about money, I invite you to talk to Jason, because Jason, if you haven't listened to that episode with his son Connor, or the one we had with his wife Patty, I think that if you're trying to have money discussions, and again, this is a pattern that you build within your family, having that discussion with Jason would be a really good one on how do I get my family on board? Because it's not just you.
I love it, Jeremy. Thank you for that. I actually had a little pride moment. I might even blushed if you're watching this at home. So, if what we're talking about today, the think, pause, act, has resonated with you, if this episode hit home, don't just nod along. Go to WealthWise Banking, book a call. There's nothing to buy, but slow down, ask better questions, and make sure your money system, the one that's going to give you your freedom number, actually supports the life that you want, the life that you love, because that clarity becomes your confidence in the thinking before action. So, Jeremy, we know that you're already in banking.
You're just not the banker yet.
God bless. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Don't miss it. You don't want to miss it. But thank you for your attention, your time, as always. Jeremy, awesome job, brother.
Yeah. See you next week.
Thanks for joining us on WealthWise Banking. If today's episode inspired you, please subscribe, leave a review, and give us a like. It's a simple way to help others discover these empowering strategies and join our community. Together, we're building a network of people who believe financial freedom is within everyone's reach. Remember, financial independence is about making every dollar work for you, one step at a time. Until next time, stay inspired, stay in control, and keep building your legacy the wise way.